There, I am Larry Jackson, the writer, director, and producer of Overcoming American Racial and Ethnic Implicit Biases. This audio is a commentary on the Nicholas Sandmann's behavior at the Lincoln Memorial on MLK weekend. I was not going to comment on this incident because of all the rush to judgment by many of the viewers of the initial videos. However, it appears that this group of young Catholic white boys is one of the target groups we are aspiring to educate on what it means to be a Catholic today. I have integrated the audio with a slideshow video of brave men and women in our nation's history, both black and white, liberal and conservative, who have shared their pearls of wisdom to counterbalance the loud noise that is currently coming from our nation that lacks wisdom and people within this unwise camp who are not brave enough to stand up against the immoral, inappropriate words and behavior coming from our national seat. The viewers can use the heretofore brave men and women's pearls of wisdom as guideposts with our new moral compass to view the cast's work and then generate their opinions that will lead to workable solutions that begin to end the hate in America. There are 3 incidents that raise a major question as to whether our Catholic boys and girls are really getting the appropriate message from their Catholic education, of which social justice and the greatest commandments are central to truly living a Catholic faith in a non-hypocritical way. The incidents I am referring to are 1. The Nicholas Sandmann incident at the Lincoln Memorial, 2. The Parker Rice and Ely Pettit incident at the University of Oklahoma, and 3. The music assistant boys at St. Monica High School. All of these incidents appear to have the same element of racial disrespect, of which the perpetrators seemingly behave as though they had adult approval for their actions. In the Sandmann incident, that adult approval was painfully obvious. In the Sandmann incident, you have to watch all of the available videos, including the body language of Nicholas Sandmann and Nathan Phillips, to get a better understanding of what went on at the Lincoln Memorial on MLK weekend. In short, after the Covington Catholic school students participated in the Respect Life March, there was a small group of black Israelites having their own protest. The ear-catching spectacle that drew the attention of Nicholas and his classmates was the foul language, racist attitudes, and general disrespect being directed towards Nathan Phillips and his fellow Native Americans, true tribal members, for no apparent reason. As Nicholas's spectator group grew larger, the black Israelites turned their inappropriate, hateful behavior of words and threats towards the Catholic school students. This further intrigued Nicholas's group to the extent of having some of the parents, teachers, and chaperones give permission to the Catholic school group to counter the black Israelites' behavior with school chants, sparking the controversy. This entire Covington Catholic High School incident could have been avoided had the adults taken the position of protecting their children by directing the kids away from the area before the situation got out of hand. Therefore, the fault lies with the adults who should have known better. This is definitely a teachable moment. A priest, in an interview, said it well. This was a Respect Life March of which the school was participating in. It was a school-sanctioned event. The adults should have forbidden the MAGA hats to be worn at this school-sponsored event. The adults should have directed the students away from the disruption. The adults should not have given permission to the students to engage in the school chants that could have incited violence to the extent that the children could have been hurt. Shame on the adults. Interesting enough, coincidentally, the same thing happened to my family and another Hispanic family that is close to our family while we were at the Los Angeles Respect Life March a few years ago. There was an opposing group trying to disrupt our peaceful march with foul language and a number of ugly, nasty, and inappropriate words that were directed at us and the children in our group. What I did, because of my belief of protecting our children, was directed our group away from this disruption. In that way, we avoided having our children verbally abused by this unruly group. This is the same thing I have done with my religious education classes when we were out on our field trips, and the same thing I have done with my own children. That is because you never know how people outside your group are going to act. So I get into my OP position. One of my daughters, when she was a teenager, she is now an ophthalmologist, eye surgeon, called me OP Dad, overprotective. When I put this in my Christmas letter, one of my Jesuit professors wrote back saying, "That is the highest compliment a child could pay a parent." The appropriate things that should have been taken into consideration at the event had the adults had their thinking caps on were: 1. This was a Respect Life March. The Covington School's behavior was not respecting life. Two wrongs do not make a right. 2. MAGA hats and their perceived meanings should not have been at a Respect Life March 3rd. Even the priest missed this one. The Respect Life March was held on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday, the celebration of a man who stood for social justice change through nonviolence. He also said that true social justice change has to have the element of love within it. There are two other recent incidents that parallel this incident involving young Catholic schoolboys. 1. The Parker Rice and Ely Pettit at the University of Oklahoma with their bus ride chants claiming that they would not allow a nigger in their frat and they support hanging them from trees. Parker Rice was a graduate from Jesuit High School of Texas. 2. The music assistants boys at St. Monica High School making fun of my adopted hemophiliac son from Guatemala for his deformed arms and legs. I don't know about you, but my parents told me never to stare at people with disabilities, let alone make fun of their disabilities. Dr. Martin Luther King's nonviolence movement was taking place during a notable time of civil unrest relative to civil rights. There were counter-protesters inciting people with their chants that black people needed to achieve power, and that power came out of a barrel of a gun. There was J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director, pronouncing Dr. King as a communist. There was the mass murder of student protesters at Kent State University, under the color of authority. Even at our own small 43-acre campus of Seattle University, while I was approaching the Piggott Building, unsuspectingly looking down while thinking about this afternoon class in international economics, on a nice quiet Seattle sunny afternoon, I looked up right into shotguns with fixed bayonets held by about 10 members of the Seattle Tactical Squad. They were on our campus to deal with about 10 protesters of the Vietnam War. Yet during all of this, Dr. King still preached achievement of social justice should be through nonviolence, even if you had to go to jail to do it. Through all of this, I am happy to report in all of my classes of 20 years of volunteer teaching of religious education, to public school Catholic students and Catholic school students, and leading the singing at some of the first folk masses. Not one of the thousands of students I interacted with through teachings, attending mass with, assisted with arts and craft workshops, and sharing field trips of religious social justice. Not one white student or any other student for that matter would have acted in the way that these white Catholic schoolboys acted in these 3 recent incidents. Thank God for that. From time to time I have had past students come up to me while I am in the back or grocery store saying things like, "Mr. Jackson, remember me?" Because of their change in their look and my blindness as a toddler, I would not recognize them. When I would ask them their name and they replied, I would recall their time in one of my classes. Then my response would be, "Of course I remember you." When I would ask them how they were doing now, one thing was always constant in their response. That was their bright-eyed and happy response. They would tell me that they were in college or they are working at a job, and that they really enjoyed our class in religious education. It is obvious that it is not the color of the skin of some young white Catholic schoolboys that leads them to behave in an inappropriate way, but rather the lack of proper guidance administered by some of our Catholic lay brothers and lay sisters that needs to be addressed. What better way to do this but through the words and actions of our growing and thinking examples setting young college Catholic students who share their opinions and workable solutions. In conclusion, our series of free broadcast internet videos is about eliminating this kind of disrespectful, unthinking, racist behavior from the minds of our young Catholic students. Based on true life stories in the series of videos, the viewers, in an enjoyable way, have the opportunity to express their opinions that led to workable and acceptable methods of change for a better world for you and me. We have planned to have a series of 40 free movies via the internet, airing on Saturday evenings dealing with moral compass issues, where audience members give their opinions that led to workable solutions to end the current wave of hate. This program is slated to last as long as 10 school years. The audience members receive up to $750 worth of free and buy one get one free electronic coupons from our nationwide sponsors' local locations. We are helping to reduce the cost of college tuition by offering up to $4 million in college and high school tuition scholarships to those schools that have substantial audience viewers, to be awarded to those students who make significant volunteer time contribution to a social justice organization. In addition, 80% of our revenue is designated to our Worthy Causes Fund, which you can see on page 45 of our magazine, The Eye Opener. We are doing all of this to achieve audience viewers in the millions, so that those of us who are concerned about moral issues in the direction our country is being driven may have a loud voice in directing our country's moral fiber in the appropriate direction. There is a statement of interest that you should complete and email back to us, and a petition of inclusion that you should complete and email back to us. This gets the ball rolling to having your campus involved in a currently highly needed national moral compass of our citizenry, enacting appropriate standards of behavior from the largest segment of our population, the religious moral, until now silent majority. Soon other religious traditions will be joining us in our quest for common decency. I look forward to your students' opinions. I am Larry Jackson, the writer, director, and producer of Overcoming American Ethnic and Racial Implicit Biases, the current hallmark to a highly needed change in the expression of common decency.